You're now vibing with Rita Shadwell here on Undaground Radio. How many times have you questioned your value in a situation, thinking maybe you don't bring enough to the table, wondering if you'll get the respect and shout-outs like others? If you've had to question your value, you could be sitting at the wrong table. When you're sitting amongst like-minded people who see your worth, it's never about being questioned, but instead, how can you and how can we make it together? Don't be so hard on yourself and your contributions. Take a moment, breathe, and be still. Look around at the people at your table, but this time take away the emotions and ask yourself, is this where I'm supposed to be? You're vibing with me, Rita Shadwell, on this Wednesday night, and for some of us, today was the beginning of school for our children, and let me tell you, at the beginning, when they first went to school, I was so glad. I say so glad that they were going to school. That when I got home, you know what I'm saying, I was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, I got the house to myself. And then, you know what I'm saying, I work from home, you know, during the daytime. So it was like, okay, I got the time to myself now. I can work, I can focus. I'm bored. What am I going to do right now? You know, there's no kids in here. There's nobody calling me, telling me to get them this, get them that. There's not anybody showing me that they know how to wipe themselves when they go to the bathroom. It was just straight focus time, and it was just me and me only. I mean, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it, but when I went to pick my children up from school, I was like, there goes my baby. Ooh, come here, ooh. Come here. You know, I'm so excited to get them back in. And that is the beauty of children. I swear it's just the awesome thing, you know. They get from you, they want from you, but when they're not around, you miss them. I mean, you be grateful to have your time to yourself, but after a while, you know, for the most of us parents, because you got some parents, you know, they be like, well, dang, school didn't stay long. They ain't got no after school, no overtime school, you know, you know, just trying to find ways of keeping the kids there. But I'm thankful. I'm thankful. I enjoy being around my kids. They pretty cool, you know. Typical kids, but for the most part, I appreciate them. So, you know, I think we should just kind of talk about them tonight because it's just an awesome thing, you know, with kids in school, and you know, I think that's just one of those discussions that I would like to have, just talking about children and just the fact that you know our children are in school. But I don't want to get too deep into it right now. Let's go ahead and no, let's check out some music. You're vibing with me, Rita Shadwell, here on Attic Underground Radio. Welcome back. You're vibing with me, Rita Shadwell, on this Wednesday night. And for the most, like I was saying earlier, for most of us parents, it's been a week of our children going to school from last week, maybe the week prior, but this month in general. Our children have been going back to school, and it's just an awesome feeling. But you know, sometimes I think about just the fact that when I take my child to school, like we don't most of the time, in some cases, we don't even know these teachers, and we just develop this relationship with them in our minds mentally that they're going to be safe, they're going to be taken care of, and we're trusting that they're going to give them what they need to, you know, to develop them more, you know, academic wise. Now, yes, as a parent, it's our responsibility to kind of incorporate some of those skills at home in our spare time, and just in general, just, you know, implementing certain guidelines and things that they're going to take with them to school and to other places. Now, for the most part, you know I did my part as far as being, you know, dealing with my kids academic wise, but some days I don't. Some days I don't, and you know, you feel kind of like maybe I should do more, you know. And, you know, everybody has their own schedule, so I'm not here to knock anybody because, like I said, to someone else, I may not be doing my part, or I could do better with my kids academic-wise, you know. But we do trust that the teachers can kind of make up for the things that we don't provide and kind of help them be better students just overall. But we as a parent, our role is to make sure that they are
just their mannerism and the respect wise, so that when they do encounter people that are, you know, teaching them, that they'll be respectful. And so it's just like the saying goes, it takes a village. So I definitely appreciate all the teachers that are out there. To the ones that I know, some that I don't know, I was fortunate today to see a familiar face in my son's school, and that was a good feeling. When I saw her, I spoke to her, and I was like, I'm gonna get my son I'm gonna get his schedule changed. I want him to come to your classroom, because she just was a familiar face to me, and that gave me a form of security. But the teacher that he's with, she gave off good energy. She was smiling, and the other students, they were just eager and ready, just sitting around looking. I think all of them, they were kind of looking like they were shell shocked, to be honest, because they were just kind of staring and looking around. Because you have to remember that some of these students, they came from like daycares. So this is their first time, being in a bigger environment, seeing other kids, and you got all these gadgets and technology around them. So they're like looking around. I did see, one parent, she was crying, and I felt like, oh, I said, that's a good mom there, because she was crying and she was just loving on her child. Because I want to assume that this is her first time possibly leaving him in a school, or just being away from him. And like I was saying earlier, like, you love being around your children, you appreciate that, but to actually see them grow, like, they're growing when you have to start taking them to school. You see them walking, and you see them develop from when they're an infant to a toddler to now. And you're watching them, and it's like every time they take a step, or every time they go to the different phase, you start realizing how much they're growing and how much they're changing and forming their own identities. So, it was just awesome to see so many little kids' faces in there. And like I said, the young lady that was just hugging her child, and, she was just crying, and, we were trying to console her and just give her some time to kind of get herself together before she leaves, so she can feel good and feel confident when she left out of that classroom. But next thing I know, I see her son crying. So it just kind of rubbed off on him, the emotion he was seeing from his mom. And, it was just a beautiful sight, because I remember being like that when I was young, with my children, with my first child, my daughter. It was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm leaving her, and I'm going to be away from her for a while. You know, like I said, it's a beautiful, thing to be fortunate enough to see your child grow and go from different stages. And like I said, when you actually see them growing, I think that was one of the sayings, that the best thing to do is to see your child grow, and then the hardest thing is to also see your child grow. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Kids are so awesome, and like I said, salute to all the teachers out there. Thank you so much for everything that you do, because like I said, school has been different lately. So many people have been dealing with so many different things, and I definitely send my condolences out to anyone that may have lost a child, and wasn't fortunate enough to have their child go to the next step, and missing out on that opportunity, as well as any parent that has lost their child in incidents in school. So I definitely want to give my condolences to them as well, because we're looking at this opportunity as a celebration, looking at our kids, and they're actually being reminded of what was taken away from them. So definitely want to send our condolences out to them. But you're vibing with me, Rita Shadwell, here on this Wednesday night. Stay tuned.